Okay, so we are still in Photopea, and I have brought on so far 3 different layers, and as I bring them in, it will give me the option to resize them, right? So let me bring in another 2 here. I like the wings on this blind Cupid. So as soon as I bring that in, it gives me the little transform box that allows me to stretch it, make it bigger, just like as you change your image sizes in Canvas, but I can also rotate it. And if I hold down Shift, I can stretch it. So Shift allows you to distort. So I have wings here, I have wings there, kind of interesting shapes. But it's getting really muddy, right? There's just a lot, because I haven't erased anything yet. And I don't want to erase anything until, I'll make the tools a little bit bigger so you can see. I don't want to erase anything until I've got at least 5 layers in there. Right now I've got 4 and a blank background layer. So I need 1 more. Let's see, let's put in this centaur. Now mine are showing through, and that's because they're from Pixabay and they have no white pixels. But I have some that do have white pixels. And so don't worry, I'll show you how we can make them all so that they're overlapping. So I'll put the centaur right there. Okay, so now I've got 5. The important thing is that your image size, which is always good to check, is at least 8 by 10 by 350, right? And I wanted mine to be 11 by 14 by 350, and what happened was it defaulted back because I didn't do one little thing. 11 by 14 by 300, but if I resample it, I can force that up to 350. As long as these are still smart objects, external files with that black square, this will not hurt my image. And then I want to click in the gray just to make sure all of that's the way I want, because it can kind of revert back on you on this freeware. So 11 by 14 by 350, okay. And it's thinking, and it did it. So notice it's all there, but now its image size is exactly where I want it. All right. Now I have the pixel grid that I want, and I can do Command R to turn on the rulers to actually see how many pixels. And it should be at least 3,000 pixels by 4,000 pixels, right? So now the space is right. Now how can I start editing the images? Well, what I want to do is go through each of them, right-click on them, and say Raterize. What that does is turn those pixels into pixels that Photopea remembers and saves for itself. So instead of referencing an outside file, this now allows me to delete from them, change them in different ways. And you can do it one at a time. So, like if I'm Arturo Herrera cutting up Disney coloring books, right? What's the first thing he would do? He would use Command plus to kind of zoom in, and then he would use his scissors. We don't have scissors here. Instead, we have a lasso. And the lasso is where we can click just with our right or with our left click, and we can take things out. Just lasso around an area, let it close, and then just hit delete. And if we've rasterized it, we can do that. So I can take away the head or the face. Maybe I don't want this shadow underneath. So I can take that away. The lasso tool is the 3rd tool down. We're going to be using the move tool and the lasso tool and then the magic wand tool for this project. But you have to rasterize it first. So you right-click on the layer and you rasterize. Turn it into pixels. Pixels that the program owns. Maybe I want to empty out his chest of all these lines. Remember, we're not really trying to tell stories with the actual images. We're trying to play with the line quality. Like we're painters, designers, playing with the lines. Okay, next. I'll turn on my next one. But if you didn't get your image from Pixabay, your image might look like this. So I'm going to fill all the empty space with white. Just so it's more like one you get as a JPEG or as an image from Google, which are mostly JPEGs. Okay, so now, I know it doesn't look any different to you, but now when I turn on things behind it, it covers it up. So how do I get so I can see what's behind it? First, I rasterize it so that I can delete from it. The next thing I do is I change the blending mode of the layer from normal to multiply. So normal mode means that all pixels are showing at 100%. Multiply means that only the darkest pixels come through. So it's like having it be a projector in an old classroom. If you need to fit more on screen, you hit Command minus. If you want to zoom in, Command plus. And if you want to just fit it all within your browser, Command 0. Okay, now I want to edit things from my Cupid layer. So I have to rasterize it. Right-click on it, rasterize, and now I can use my lasso, and I can cut some things away. I like the wings, but I don't like this quiver of arrows. It's really muddy. So I'm going to delete that. And maybe I'll just get rid of the whole head. But maybe I'll leave the mask. Just like if you're collaging, you get to make these decisions. Yeah, so which layer? So the problem is you rasterize them before you made them big enough. So you're going to want to go back before you rasterize and then stretch them all to fill the space. Yeah, so they can overlap each other. Because what we don't want to do is just do like a sticker page, with like little images that each occupy their own space. We want to overlap them all and jumble them together. Like you're mashing them all together. So yeah, you can't unrasterize, so you have to go back in your history to before you rasterize them. You see, so now you've got these again. And now you're going to take each one, we'll do it one at a time, and make them bigger. Yep, so Option Command T, stretch it. Yeah, because then when you rasterize it, it will remember the pixels at that size. So now right-click and rasterize. But if you rasterize them when they're small like this, when you want to make them bigger, they'll be really, really quick. Yeah, it's the right idea.
But whenever I do things, it doesn't actually go.
Interesting. Oh, that's just because you're on this layer. You see how that's gray? And you want it to be on this layer. So if you select that, then it will delete. It can be even bigger. Your lasso will only affect the layer that you're on, right? Yeah, you are. So go ahead and lasso something you want to delete. Let it close. Yep, now hit delete.
Okay, it didn't work until you came up.
Yeah, no, that happens sometimes. Sometimes what happens is you have a little selection somewhere that you can't see, and then it will only affect what's in there, if that makes sense. But yeah, you can always go back, and you can always hit Command D to deselect. Always use the eyeball to make sure you're selecting on the layer you want to affect. And some of you are already really getting into it. Here, let me pause this. All right, so now I have two layers that are rasterized and sized. And already you can see how when I layer them up, they're starting to create some interesting forms with each other, right? Okay, now I'll do a third layer. And I should change it to multiply mode as well as I go. Now this layer, the lines are a lot thinner. You guys see that? So what if I wanted to thicken those lines a little bit? This is the next skill we're going to learn. Once you've rasterized, and I haven't rasterized this one yet, but I'm going to because it's the right size. You can not only delete from it, but you can also go to Image and go to Adjustments and go to levels. These are called levels adjustments. This is for lights and darks. There's 4 adjustments. These are called direct adjustments that we're going to learn. Levels is the first one throughout the semester. So levels has to do with lights and darks, highlights, shadows, and midtones. If I want to increase the darks, I would push this slider to one side. If I want to increase the whites, I push this slider to one side. Because this was a vector, which was only ever black pixels, there's not a lot of leeway, right? Because I'm on the right layer. It's just these are all black pixels and white pixels already, right? But if your pixels are a little grayed out, or if there's a watermark of dark gray on your black lines, adjustments will take care of all of it. There's something more I can do, though. I said if I wanted to thicken this image, what could I do? Well, I can, because this is a vector image that doesn't have any white pixels, it's just the black. I can double click it here, and I can build what's called a stroke around each of those black pixels and thicken it as thick as I want, right? To make that line art a little bit stronger. And vectors are ideal for this, but we'll learn about that a little bit later on. So now that line weight matches a little bit better with what I've done before, and that's what's called a layer effect, or sometimes called a layer style, which can be turned on and off. But only after you rasterize it. Okay, Percy Jackson here. It's too complicated to even see what I'm doing, so I'm going to turn off the eyeballs and delete a little bit from this. And I can be a little bit more arbitrary, just take like big chunks out of it, as long as it's rasterized first. All right. Okay, now this one. This one I have to delete a lot. So for this, I'm going to do big chunks to delete, but I first have to rasterize it. And I want to get rid of these clouds, but I'll leave some of them because I like the lines. I definitely want to get rid of that website, get rid of the city skyline. And you'll get some practice with the Lasso tool, just simple selections and then deleting. And I'd like all of you to try, even though it's pass-fail, it's going to look better if you do this. Try to delete anything that's running off the corners, right? So it's free floating. You bring everything into the middle. And now maybe I want to get rid of the head and the legs. And then I want to set it to multiply mode so that it's just the dark pixels that are coming through. Now I can play with levels adjustment on it too. So I can go to image adjustments and I'll zoom in with Command plus. And we're getting to where we need to save it. So we're going to play with a lot of this. Really, as long as we have 5 layers to work with, we're in good shape for next class. So what we need to do now is save this project so that we can work on it at home on Photopea or work on it just next class in Photopea. And I still have lots of editing I need to do. So now that it's in Photoshop, what I need to do, or Photopea, I have to say File, Save as a PSD. PSD stands for Photoshop Document. And yes, this file can be worked on in Photoshop and in Photopea interchangeably, as long as you save it as a PSD. We are going to save that PSD with your name and a description to the desktop. Then hit save. Then I'm going to look at my desktop. I'm going to find it. It's right here. I'm going to open up my master folder. I'm going to put it into my exercise 1 folder. And to differentiate it from my other